40 piece on the Suns. Watch.
40 piece?
40 piece, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds. Paul George is about to go off.
Who
Paul
else
George is about to
scoring?
go off.
Who else
Paul
is
George is going to have a
scoring?
good, like you said, he can steal one game. This is his one game. Prodigal P's about to have it. This is his night. This is his night.
I don't believe it. I think Yo, welcome back to another video of the Up Next Show. It's Marcus Bailey. This is my co-host, Aliso. And before we start the video, just go down there, tap the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment while you're down there. Today, we're going to be talking about can Paul George bounce back? Game 3 in the Clippers versus Suns playoff matchup, Western Conference Finals. Aliso, your turn. What is your take on it?
Now, look. These Clippers keep proving me wrong. Look, they went down 0-2. They went down 0-2 against the Mavericks, came back and won, had Kawhi. Went down 0-2. I said it was over when it was 2-0. I said Mavericks would win in 5, and that series went to 7. Clippers won. Against the Jazz, they go down 2-0. I said Clippers would win 2 at home, but the Jazz would win in 6. The Clippers lost Kawhi game 4. I said Jazz in 6 most definitely, and the Clippers won that series without Kawhi. So now they're down 0-2 again, but look. This is where the run ends. This is where it's over. Look, this is like the Nuggets team from last year. Nuggets were down 3-1. Nuggets were down 3-1 in the first 2 series. And everyone's like, oh, they got the Lakers right where they want to be when the Nuggets were down 3-1 against the Lakers. No. The Nuggets lost in 5. The Clippers, oh, they got the Suns right where they want to. They're down 0-2. Let's be honest. In the playoffs, nobody plays to lose games. This is not the draft. This is not where you're playing for the number 1 pick or a lottery pick. No, you play to win games and win the finals. So the Clippers don't have a strategy to go down 0-2. Now Ty Lue has coached the team very well. Ty Lue's great under pressure, and the Clippers prevail. But this is where the run ends. No team in playoff history had ever come down twice from down 2-0. The Clippers did it. So now they're going to do it a third time. The chances are very slim, 0.35 to be exact. The Clippers are not doing this again. They're not coming back down 0-2 again. Now, look, the Suns should be winning more convincingly. I'm not overconfident in these Suns. I have them winning the series in 5, but they should be winning more consistent. They should be winning by a wider margin. Marcus Morris had 7. Terrence Mann had 8. Batum had 3 and Pat Bev had 6. Besides Reggie Jackson giving you 19, Paul George didn't have a good game going 1 for 8 from 3. But with 3 minutes left, it's a 6-point game. Come on now. Pat Bev's defense on Devin Booker, I love it. Playoff basketball, that's pesky. Devin Booker is a great shooter. He's efficient in all of it. He was 5 for 16 last night, 1 for 3 from the 3-point line. But when it mattered, we see why D-Book is becoming a superstar, bona fide superstar. D-Book, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Luka, all stepped up their game in the playoffs. They're becoming superstars right before our eyes. When it mattered the most, D-Book was clutch. Paul George, even though he had a bad game, I knew Pandemic P memes were coming. Let's retire that nickname for a while because Paul George has been hooping. Paul George has stepped up, been the number 1 option the Clippers need. He didn't have a very good first 3 quarters. The 4th quarter, especially the last 6 minutes, he scored or assisted on 11 of the Clippers' last 13 points. He did miss 2 crucial free throws. But other than that, he was great in the game, and I believe Paul George will step up game 3, and the Clippers will win game 3. But CP3 will be coming back, so he'll be trying to get back in the mix of the game. He's been out for about 11 days. He'll be trying to get back in the mix of things, and that's why the Suns won't win game 3. I believe the Clippers in game 3, but this series will be over in 5. But Paul George, I'm retiring Pandemic P for a while because he's been hooping, and I like what I'm seeing from him and Devin Booker, and this has been a great series.
Aliso, come on now. We don't give Paul George that much credit. First of all, let me take up to the Chris Paul point. Let's Chris Paul beat LeBron in your eyes the greatest player in the world, right? At 80%. So why don't you think he can do the same thing? Coming back, he has a more steady recovery. Coming back and beating Paul George.
No. Chris Paul is going to be the reason why the series is over in 5. Without Chris Paul, say Chris Paul's out for the whole series. Suns in 6. maybe 7. But when Chris Paul comes back, I believe he'll have an off game 3 because he'll be trying to hit. I believe he won't be as efficient scoring as he will. He can get 10 assists in his sleep, but I don't believe he'll be as efficient as he normally is. And I believe that's why the Clippers will take advantage and they'll win that game. Because Rondo, we already know Rondo and Chris Paul have beef. We already know Rondo's going to be in the head or trying to get in Chris Paul's head. So we already know that's going to be there. So I believe the Clippers will win game 3 off of that alone.
I don't believe that. It's just Chris Paul doesn't really have to do much of the scoring load. Again, you have Ayton, which is a dominant post present. Cameron Payne, like the Lisa like to say, a great scorer off the bench, and also the Lisa said, a rising star in Devin Booker. Both of them, all 3 of them, had more than 20 points this game, and so I don't think Chris Paul's scoring presence would be a significant factor in them losing the game because he really doesn't have to score that much. He can go out there, drop 10 like an average role player, still get 10 assists, but you still have to respect his mid-range shot because we all know it's money once he gets to the corner edge. But this is my point. I gave during a few games back, during the last series, I said Paul George, I gave him a new nickname, Prescription P. He found a prescription. He got vaccinated. Like I said, I take back what I said before. I thought he was a disease. I thought it would spread to the rest of the team. No, he found a prescription. But prescriptions start to wear off if you don't take them. You gotta stay on them. 1 for 8 from 3, like Lisa said, not acceptable. And Paul George needs to step up. No Kawhi. If you really want to make your name and take the narrative off you, it doesn't matter what your role players are doing. That's how every superstar is judged. LeBron, it doesn't matter what his role players do. Are you going to win the game? To be a number 1 option. Your role players, like the Lisa said before, your role players are going to diminish. Are you as a number 1 option, or a number 1 option is going to step up? I don't see Paul George doing this. I see this going to a game in 5. And I also see this because the Suns did not play, in my eyes, the Suns did not play down to the Clippers level because I always had the Suns being a better team than the Clippers. They shot 23.1% from 3. But in the series, in the playoffs, they're shooting around 40%. Their 3-point obviously dropped off, and they only won. They shouldn't have even won this game by the grace of I don't even know, the basketball gods. Devin Booker said a great pick for Ayton to get a little chippy alley-oop, but they shouldn't have won this game. But I think with Chris Paul's presence back, just his presence alone, his mid-range specialist, and I think he will have a 10-10 night, 10 points, 10 assists. I have the Suns winning this. But I do think Paul George might steal a game, have a prodigal P performance. He might go for 41 game, might have his career high in the playoffs. But no, with no Kawhi and Chris Paul coming back, I don't entertain this. At most, I see this going to 6, but like Deliso said, it could end up in 5.
Now look. I had to get to this later. I didn't want to finish the show without talking about this. Officiating played a big part in the game, but that's another story. But one part of the officiating, Monty Williams, no timeout. He got to drop an amazing inbound. Budenholzer, take notes. Take notes, Budenholzer. In the next game, in game 7, I believe it was game 7, you called a horrible inbound play to Brook Lopez, and he held it at the top, 0 IQ, and threw it to Chris Middleton when you had 2 seconds to shoot it on the shot clock. That was a horrible inbound play, Budenholzer, and you had a timeout. Monty Williams, under stress, he knew what he had to do. He saw Paul George miss 2 free throws. He said, we're throwing it to Ayton. Great play call, Monty Williams. Great pass, Jay Crowder. Great screen by Devin Booker, and great dunk by Ayton. That's 4 for 4. Everything worked out on that play. Were there some fouls? Yes, but that's playoff basketball. I love what I saw. Devin Booker, his nose was basically broken. Devin Booker was gushing out of his nose. His nose was puffy if you look at his press conference after the game. But Devin Booker set a great hard screen on Zubac, and Nick Batum, who was guarding Devin Booker, instead of rolling and guarding Ayton, was scared Devin Booker is going to shoot the ball and get the ball and shoot it for a quick mid-range, which would have been butter too. But no, Ayton got the ball off an amazing pass by Crowder and dunked it. That was the game. They should have ended the game right there. I understand they had to technically give the Clippers their last timeout set, but a full court pass that was not going to – Paul George is not hitting a 3 off in time enough to win that game. But if Paul George hits one of those free throws, I don't think the Suns are going for that inbounds play dunk. I think they're going for a 3 to win the game, but he did it. Paul George will be better in game 3. I believe he'll go for 40, and the Clippers will win game 3.
Why do you believe he'll go for 40 at home? You know how inconsistent he's been at home this whole series. I mean, the whole
Because
playoffs. The whole playoffs has been
because
inconsistent. You really
Paul
trust him?
George, Paul George is not listening to the media. He's not listening to
He
none of
should.
it.
He should.
Paul George is not trying to go back into that place where he was suffering from depression. Paul George is not trying to do that anymore. So Paul George is his own critic.
You know that?
Paul George said after the game, "I'm moving on." I love that. I love
He
it.
Dalisa, what you don't understand is
up over missing 2 free throws.
you can say what you want. You can say what you want. Because he said he moved on. What are you moving on from? Dalisa, you can say you move on. You can say you move on for whatever. What is your actions gonna do? And we're not talking about, we're talking about in history. History repeats itself. In recent history, Paul George does not show up. Paul George is inconsistent. And even in the playoffs, Paul George is not good at home. They lose.
And watch when he drops.
And now you're playing the best team. The best team.
Watch when he drops this 40 piece on the Suns. Watch.
40 piece?
40 piece, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds. Paul George is about to go off.
Who else scoring?
Who else is scoring? Gonna have a good, like you said, he can steal one game. This is his one game. Prodigal P's about to have it. This is his night.
I don't believe it. I think if anything, I see it going to game 4. I see him having that game in game 4 when the Suns are really coasting up 3-0, and it really doesn't matter. They could sell more tickets going back home. But come on now. Y'all, this is the problem. This is the problem with sports media. Y'all wanna push a narrative. Don't gas a player. Don't gas a player. Don't gas a player. Don't gas a player. Deliso. Paul George. Let's look at history. Looking at history gives you facts. And it's facts that Paul George is inconsistent. You've said it yourself. It's facts that he sucks at home. And it's also facts that his best player in Kawhi, one of the clutchest players in NBA playoff history, is not on his side. And it's also facts that the point guard MVP candidate Chris Paul is coming back. And you think Prodigal P is about to drop 40 and 10 assists? Who is he passing to? Who?
Luke
But
Kennard,
Beverly,
Terrence Mann,
he can pass to Beverly all he wants.
That boy,
he can pass.
That boy Paul George about to turn back the clock to PG-13 with the Indiana Pacers before the injuries. Paul George is about to write a new chapter in history, and we're gonna look at this one, and we're gonna forget about Pandemic P. That's in the past. Let's focus on the future now. Come on now. But that's all we have for today.
What are you talking about?
Make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you stay tuned for the rest of this week.
George? I mean,
more videos. We got more videos dropping. And thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tap that bell.